Hello everybody! Today we are going to be taking a look at an artist and photographer known as Alberto Seveso. And we're going to learn a little bit about how to create an artwork using his style. So, as you can see from the images, Alberto Seveso really likes to play around with three-dimensional shape, line, texture, and abstract designs on top of portraits. He also does some nice double exposures with high-speed photography ink. Today, we're going to focus on how to create something similar to this in Photoshop or photopea. Today, I'll be using photopea. Let's go ahead and get started. First, you will need a portrait photo. I'm going to go to unsplash.com and find a photograph of a portrait that uses color and simple lighting. If Unsplash doesn't work for you at home, you can try the other stock photo sites posted on the resources tab of my website. Once you find a photograph that you think will work, go ahead and download it for free. The reason why we're using unsplash.com is that it is Creative Commons. That means that the photographers have given you access to use these photographs in your artwork, and these photographs are also high resolution. Okay, I am now in Photopea, and I'm going to open up first a brand new document with our class document dimensions. I'm going to go to File, New, and this is going to be my Seveso practice, so I'm going to call it my last name dash Seveso. For practice assignments, we usually work with standard print sizes 8 by 10 or 11 by 14 inches at 150 dpi, that's dots per inch in Photopea. I'm going to go ahead and make the width 11 and the height 14 inches since this is a portrait, and I'm going to make my DPI 150. If I wanted to print this out, I would make my DPI 300. Background is white. Click Create. All right, so this will be the document that I am working on. Next, I need to go get my portrait that I downloaded from unsplash.com. I'm going to go to File, Open. Remember, always open your documents as their own document. Do not drag and drop onto an open document. It will create a picture clipping, and a picture clipping is low resolution. We don't want that. It's a good idea to check your image size when you pull stock photos off the internet. I'm going to go to Image Size. All right, and I'll check this. This photograph is very large. It's over 55 inches by 83 inches. The DPI is only 72, but that's okay because the picture itself is very large. All right, I am going to move this photo over to my brand new document. I'm going to get my Move tool and I'm going to drag it on top of the tab for that document and moved it over. All right, so you can see that this photograph is way bigger than 11 by 14. So I am going to zoom out and resize. Edit, free transform. Okay, in Photopea, you need to hold Shift and drag a corner to make sure you maintain the proper proportions of a photograph. I'm going to go ahead and leave this a little bit cropped off the picture plane. And I'm going to click this check mark or tick to confirm my edit. All right, I'll zoom back in My next step is to get rid of the background. In the Seveso style, he's got black backgrounds, blue backgrounds, and then he adds some interesting abstract brushes for effect. So let's prep that. Photopea has a really nice way to get rid of the background. I am going to go 4 tools down, hold down on the object selection, and get the quick selection tool. Once in the quick selection tool, a submenu on your submenu, the Refine Edge button pops up. Let's click Refine Edge. All right, now it's going to show us a preview of your photo, and then it's going to show us a preview of how you're changing it over here on the right. We are going to use these 3 values, white, gray, and you could use black, but we're going to use white and gray to mask out our background. I'm going to do that first by selecting white, and it has an default hard round brush. That's good. And I'm going to go ahead and paint what I want to keep white. All right, so I'm going to paint the majority of her face and hair using white, and it will keep that. As soon as I let go of my mouse, you'll see it pop up on the right-hand side preview image. There it is. All right, and notice that it's showing that checkerboard, empty pixels. That's what's going to get deleted. All right, so this is technically a masking tool, but we're doing it inside the Refine Edge feature. And then coming up, there's a really nice way to include the little wisps of hair. All right, so I'm going to finish up painting the majority that I want to keep in white. And in a moment, I'm going to paint the edge of her hair and her face with gray. Okay, so now I'm going to choose gray. And wherever I paint with gray, I'm going to reduce the size of my brush tip. Keyboard shortcut for smaller brush tip is left bracket, larger brush tip, right bracket. And right now I have gray, and I'm going to go over just the edge. And what's going to happen is that Photopea is going to take into account the gray zone and consider what do you want to keep and what do you want to blend away. And it's going to recognize that there's hair and include it for you. So useful. All right, so I'm going over the edges using gray and a smaller brush tip. Okay, once you're happy with your preview image, you can go over here to the right-hand side and you can select where do you want this new image to be. Do you want it on a new layer, a raster mask, or a selection? I want it on a new layer, and then I'll click OK. All right, so take a look. It made me a brand new layer. It hid my original photograph, and there's my white background. I turned it off. So you can see the brand new layer has the girl subtracted from the background, a little bit airy on the sides here. I might go back and fix that. All right, but you can see it included those wisps of hair and got rid of the background. So useful. All right, I am going to rename this photo. It's called background right now. I'm just going to rename it about main photo because I will be using this over and over again. Okay, you can keep the background white, or maybe you want to play around giving it a color. I'm getting the paint bucket, going to the background layer, going to fill it in black and see how that looks. I might change my mind later, but we'll keep it black for right now. Okay, Our next steps are to use the pen tool to create vector shapes. We are going to repeat the same step over and over again. Let's begin. First off, I am going to duplicate my main photo a lot. All right, so you can do this step and you can duplicate the photo right now, or you can duplicate the photo later. All right, I'm just going to duplicate it once. Layer, duplicate layer, or Command J on a Mac, Control J on a PC. So now I have a duplicate photo. Next, I am going to go get my pen tool. I'm going to use the regular pen tool. There's also the Freeform pen tool if you want. Once you're in the pen tool, make sure you have chosen Shape on the submenu. You should have a fill color and no stroke. I am just going to use red as my fill color for right now so that you can see it, but really your fill color doesn't matter. And that's because we will actually be using clipping masks to fill each shape. So to begin, I am going to zoom in a little bit. And with my pen tool, I am going to make some organic shapes around the facial features. So I'm going to start out by drawing some kind of free-form organic shapes around the eye. All right, there's my new shape layer. It popped up when I drew it. You can rename each layer if you'd like so that you can keep track. Next, I'm going to add a drop shadow to this. Layer, layer style, drop shadow. Layer, layer style, drop shadow. All right, the point of the drop shadow is to make it look like this shape is floating off of her face. So I'm going to stick with black as my color. Your blending mode, you can keep it on multiply or normal. You can increase or decrease the opacity. How much do you want the shadow to stand out? You can change your angle if you want. I think I'm going to keep my angle on the default. And just play around with increasing the size and the distance, because I do want the shadow to show around a lot of the shape, not just on one side. Okay, and now I'll click OK. There's my drop shadow. Next step, I'm going to take my duplicated photo in the layers palette and drag it above that new shape layer. Next, I need to make that photo have a clipping mask. So I'm on my duplicated photo, layer, clipping mask. Whenever you make a clipping mask, it means that the photograph only shows up in what is on the layer below it. So the only thing below it is the vector shape. So it's clipped into the vector shape. If I get my move tool and move this, notice that I move the photo around inside the vector shape. So if you wanted to get, a little bit more abstract and start distorting the features of the face, you could shift the photo inside the clipping mask. But if you wanted it to remain somewhat realistic, just feel like it's floating off the face, then don't move the photo within the clipping mask. Okay, so that's our main steps. We're going to repeat that over and over. So next step, I'm going to go back to my main photo, duplicate it, layer, duplicate layer. Okay, next, I like to put all these at the top. I'm going to keep moving everything to the top. Next, make a new shape. I'm going to hide that for right now, just so I can see where my shape is. I'm going to go back to the pen tool. Double check you're on shape. You have a fill color. All right, next I'm going to make some more shapes. I am going to play around with making some of them smaller and some of them larger. I'm also going to make them overlap. So here's a smaller shape. All right, next I need my drop shadow. I don't have to reprogram the drop shadow each time. I'm going to copy it from my previous layer. So I'm going to drop down the arrow for my effects. There's the drop shadow, and I'm simply going to duplicate it and drag it up to this one. All right, so I'm going to hover right here where it says drop shadow. I'm going to hold Alt or Option and just drag that drop shadow effect up to my new shape. There it is. Let's do that again. All right, so I'm going to go to my drop shadow, hover on the words drop shadow, hold Alt or Option, click it, hold it, drag it up to your new shape layer, and you just copied the drop shadow. All right, I'm going to take my duplicated photo, drag it on top of my shape layer, create a clipping mask, layer, clipping mask. Okay, so now I have two shapes. Time to repeat that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get my pen tool again and draw another shape. Making sure to close the path. All right, next, I'm going to duplicate my drop shadow. Here it is. Hold Alt or Option, click it, drag it, drop it on my new shape layer to duplicate. There it is. Okay, next I am going to duplicate my main photo again. Layer, duplicate layer. Drag this up to the very top. Oops. Okay, and create clipping mask. Layer, clipping mask. Okay, looks like I lost a drop shadow. Okay, I'll go back and correct that momentarily. All right, so now I've got about 3 shapes. Let's do that one more time, and then we're going to talk about color overlays. All right, back up to the top, get my pen tool. I'm going to draw another shape. All right, I'm going to copy and paste my drop shadow. Alt or Option, drag it up. All right, time to copy or duplicate my main photo. Layer, duplicate layer, and drag it up to the top above my new shape and create a clipping mask. Layer, clipping mask. Okay. All right, so now I have a couple of shapes. I would continue to make more shapes, but to just jump a little bit ahead, now I'm going to put a couple of color overlays on here. So for instance, this shape right here, I think I'd like to put a color overlay. All right, it's this layer. So now I am going to go ahead and double click to bring up my effects. And I would like to see a color overlay. I could stick with red, very Alberto Seveso, or I can click on my swatch and choose a new color. All right, I still would like to see the skin tone. So I'm going to reduce the opacity, and I think I'm going to put my blending mode on overlay. All right, so it makes it a little bit more subtle. All right, let's stop here and move on to video part 2.